People, deluded, I'm back again. Good afternoon, and I hope you're all well and safe. Fridays equals Q&A days, man. So without further ado, especially in these troubled times where you're seeing with politics and obviously you're seeing with certain viruses going around, there's plenty of reasons to not really give a crap about YouTube or give a crap about football. So I appreciate you lot coming hard each and every time with asking me questions. I appreciate you lot obviously supporting my thing and whatnot. On the topic of supporting people, obviously you lot have voted for me and nominated me to the point where I'm now a finalist again on the Football Content Awards. Don't think I'm going to win it, but let's see how far we can go. If you haven't voted already, or even if you have, please do up the voting thing. Links are in the description. You can vote across multiple devices. You can vote across multiple platforms. You can vote normally on their website. You can vote on Twitter. You can vote on Instagram. All the information is on footballcontentawards.com. All the relevant information will be in my bio in relation to the link. So yeah, man, if you've got 30 seconds, I'd appreciate it. If not, then it is what it is. It's a shame, but it is what it is. So let's crack on with the questions, man. Like I said, you lot came extremely strong with asking me questions again. So let's crack on with the ones via Twitter, purely because I seem to do them last all the time. Strictly Football said, did you play football yourself? If so, what's your favourite position? Or who would you compare your style of play to? Well, everyone's going to answer this question on a madness. If I had my way, I wanted to be a striker, man. Obviously, I love to score goals, innit? I love the glory. Like, I'm on this Cristiano Ronaldo thing. Like, I mean, my guy will never let me forget, yeah. And I used to play up front Sunday League. I can't lie, I used to be a striker. I was quite selfish. I won top goal scorer. But this is way before I became a right back. There was obviously me and him. He was a winger, and I'm surprised he's not a professional footballer. He's a bad boy forward, innit? But I was on this Van Nistelrooy thing. He must have beat like 3-4 man. He's banged it now, innit? And I've seen it going on the line, and I'm thinking, you know what, this is a goal for man. I understand he's done his thing, but no, you know, I need the glory. Tapped it now. I think I've scored. The rest of them offside. I'm going to the linesman trying to bad him up. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's not happening. We won it, but yeah, you know, I'd love to be a striker in Power League. I just do up the Santi Cazorla thing / right back thing. If I had to compare my style of play to someone, I'd like to think it's Dani Alves. In reality, I'd say Kyle Walker-Peters. You know, young Kyle Walker-Peters, just do my thing at right back, or Sagna sort of thing. I just do my thing. You know. Couple of times I've gone 5-a-side and people said they remind me of Coutinho. I remind them of Coutinho, so I take that one. But I think a little Coquelin, Carl Walker-Peters, you know, I'd looking at myself, I'd say tackling's a strength, winning the ball's a strength. Hey, they're signing my eye, people. Apologies, blurring my vision. But like I was saying, I think tackling's a strength. I say my commitment and heart's a strength. I think I'm an okay passer. I'm not like no Perlo or nothing, but I can clip a ball over the top, a little weighted one. I used to be set piece taker. I'm not free kicks, like trying to score them and that, but I used to be fairly decent at that. So I'm an okay passer. For a small guy, I can throw myself around physically now, which for years I couldn't do. So now I like to do this Tevez thing. My awareness is decent. I'd say as well, another strength, I understand my capabilities, man. There's piano pushers and piano players. I understand I'm not a piano player, so man will push the pianos. But I'd say Kyle Walker-Peters and Francis Coquelin to a degree, my guy. But I think in my head I'm playing like Dani Alves. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a good way to start this thing. Live from Planet X is asked, hey DG, football FAs only care about racism when it's trendy. You're 100% right. What could be done to ensure players are actually protected and have their voices heard? More black players. Listen, white players should stand up as well. But I'd say more players in general need to stand up for this thing and say, you know what, these stadium closures, these minimal fine bans, these, you know, these every now and again, these fancy well put say no to racism production short adverts. You say, nah, this ain't enough. They've got to make a stand. I don't know what specifically, but they've got to make a stand. Like I said, I'd like to see all footballers doing that, but specifically to black footballers and people that are victims of such, I think they're the ones that got to lead the front, fight people. You can't expect another. As much as I want people to stand in solidarity with other people, if I was an oppressed person, I'm not going to sit there and wait for a next ethnic group or a next group of people to save me. I'm going to save myself. If you're with this thing, you're with this thing. I don't think there's much they can do because obviously they say no to racism and things, but as you know, from going to the players all the way up to boardroom, the diversity changes. Maybe if there was more, I keep saying black, but more ethnic minorities within these prominent positions, they might help more. Because if I'm a president of FIFA and I have grown up being racially abused and I see racial abuse, happening at stadiums. I'm going heavy and things like that, people. Do you get it? I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen, but yeah, man, I'd say just I don't know, man, but they've just got to lead the fight a bit better. I don't know. I think it is what it is with these, man. Like you said, they don't care. They only care when it's trendy. They want to be seen saying the right things rather than actually doing the right things. And for me, I think as a black man, they take me for a fool. Anytime somebody's racially abused, it's a minimal fine. It's the same. Oh, all lives matter. We're all the same. You know, we're this. It doesn't matter. And all of that is true. But you know, you're telling me my thing don't matter because of how you're treating it and stuff like that, people. So I don't know, man, but I'd say that. Thomas said, given the circumstances, would you be happy if we treated the remainder of the season as a sort of pre-season for the following season and trial new systems, formations, tactics and players? Well, you know what, Arteta's come in and, you know, we're 9th. The squad is probably at the worst that everybody's seen. There's no false expectations, so I don't really think much has changed, my guy. But yeah, it is very much trial and error for Arteta. Next season, to a degree, will be the same. But you more want to see a bit more. I'm not saying he doesn't have this. Just to answer your question, a bit more of a stable 11, a bit more stability, a bit more consistency, and obviously the things we're already improving: game management, defensive outlook, breaking out play. You want to see that improve a bit more. So I get what you mean, and I definitely agree. That's been the case since Arteta's probably come in. That's been the case since Emre was sacked, really. So 100%. Obasa said, what do you think Guendouzi's role in Arsenal's midfield will be if he remains with us for the foreseeable future? I see him playing that deep line role. You know, I don't know if it will be like Xhaka, but I see him able to do that. The thing with him, you see a bit of everything. He likes to venture forward. You see a bit of an attacking mid in Guendouzi. Do I think he's quite that? No. You know, he's been at the base before. He's not even experienced. Is he mature enough and sensible enough to play at the base of midfield? I think he can be taught to do that. Deep line playmaker / box to box. I don't really think he covers a lot of ground and is quite box to box in his energy, but I don't really think him. For me personally, I think it's a deep line playmaker. I do think he could do what Xhaka does if he wants it enough, to a degree, people, because I think he's got a lovely passing range. That's one thing that gets to me about Guendouzi. There's a player in Guendouzi of some standard. It's just little aspects of his game. I actually think, see that pass, I think it was against Spurs, the ball over the top for Aubameyang. I want him to do that a bit more, but I think he needs to be taught to do that. I think it's all about playing with maturity for Guendouzi. So I'd say deep line. Dylan said, how much money do you think we'll have to spend in the transfer market? My guy, I don't know, man. I'm a fan like you. I wish I could answer that. I'm a fan waiting on the sidelines. We'll have to see come September the 1st or 2nd, whenever the window closes, to come to that conclusion. So not a clue, my dude. Thomas said, do you think it will be beneficial for Arsenal to have a season without European football next year? Or is the UEL, apologies, good for giving youngsters opportunities they wouldn't normally get? Obviously, I agree with what you said in the last statement. Of course, it's another opportunity to give young players, you know, debuts and blood them in. Look at Saka. He got to play against Frankfurt away from home. Pretty sure that was a good experience for him. Of course, by that logic, with all due respect to the Europa League, yeah, like Arsenal, United, all these teams that have been in it for a couple of years, you could put your 3rd, 4th choice in some aspect squad out there, and you should be getting out the group stages. So yeah, it presents the chances. You know, Joe Willock got to take advantage of that. Nelson got to. Charlie Gilmore's left, but I'm sure he made his debut in that competition. Ben Shafe, I believe, has played in this competition as well. Obviously, the Sakas and all these other young players, they're in and about. So yeah, man, you got a couple of games in the group to give them blood, to blood them in, to give them an opportunity. Martinelli, even initially, I'm sure was getting Europa League minutes. So on top of, you know, the early rounds of the FA Cup, with all due respect again, this, you know, the Carling Cup, depending on how far you go in it, League Cup, because the sponsors always changes. You know, it's more opportunities for young players to get. Obviously, for me, the main thing with the Europa League, and with all due respect, it's not the actual... Listen, winning it is a European trophy and stuff, but if we cut the crap, nobody wakes up. None of us are footballers. When we were trying to be footballers, we were dreaming World Cup, Premier League, Champions League. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to win. They say European trophy, but nobody aspires to win the Europa League. If you're a professional baller and, you know, things have happened, by all means, go for it. And it's like I said, it's a big trophy. It's a European trophy at the end of the day. But the biggest carrot of that trophy is not actually winning it, it's getting to the Champions League. So with that, obviously, like we failed to do under Emre when we got to the final and additionally choked in the league, obviously we're out under Arteta now, it's another opportunity to try and get into the Champions League. By the same logic, it could be a fixture pilot. Like, I'm sure one year Chelsea were out of everything and they were playing literally twice a week, once a week, and they got back in the top 4. So for me, I do think, listen, we've coming closest in doing it, but we've come close to getting Champions League football regardless of the competitions. So I do think, you know, it shouldn't really have a bearing. You've got a squad big enough, rotations a thing, all of these sort of stuff. But I do get the logic, because for me, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like it's selfish, but 5:55 kickoffs, the Europa League, I hate it, innit? So I am leaning towards the side of, again, the only point that tips me is Europa League gives you another chance at the Champions League, even though I think, and I still maintain, the only way we should be targeting it is the Premier League, people, because you've got 38 Premier League games. Do the maths, you've got 38 chances to get up there in the top 4 versus, again, I don't know how much games it actually is from the group stages to the final of the Europa League. But for me, I don't really think we've got a squad where when the pressure is on like that, we can't say, all right, let's just say it's 7 games, 7 games, we're going to be up for it and get to the final and win it. We'll choke. We choked against Atletico, shot ourselves in the foot with individual mistakes that year. Obviously, we've just went out in stupidness. Obviously, we made the final last year under Emre and capitulated. Players have to take responsibility, us does Emre. But and again, ifs and buts doesn't guarantee anything, and it's even more frustrating. But you look at we had so many chances under Emre to get into the Champions League via the top 4, specifically that last 8-game period, and we choked it. I think first and foremost, and I'm pretty sure Arteta's of the same thinking, we target Champions League via the top 4, because, you know, if you can be consistent over 38 games, you might have a chance of doing it in tournament football. So we go for that. Of course, there's a last chance saloon similar to, I don't know if you play Call of Duty, but you could say Europa League is like the gulag. You've got another opportunity. So there is plenty of reasons to lean towards that, but I can't lie, I am personally leaning to the side of it. And again, I know there's not much finances with Europa League, but there's finances to consider and opportunities for young players. For me personally, I'm leaning towards, you know what, hopefully we're not in any, if we're not in the champs, we're not in anything, you know, we're playing once, twice a week. Arteta has even more time to implement what he needs to implement. You know, there's less pressure on the boys, and if they still can't get Champions League, only playing once or another week, when, you know, you'd imagine, you know, Chelsea are going to get Champions League, City and Liverpool, let's just say none of these teams are competing for the league and we're all competing for top 4. When it gets down to the business, and assuming all of them are still in other competitions, less games for us in theory makes us fresher. So I'm leaning towards the side of not being involved in anything, people, but that's purely for my selfish reasons. But yeah, man, you can't knock the opportunity it gives to young players and things like that. So I don't really want to be in it, but there's plenty of benefits for young players. And obviously when you get through to certain rounds, there's benefits for experienced players, Tom. Big up yourself, Tom, for that question. That was a good one. Trying to make sure that I haven't left anybody out. Apologies, people. And if you can hear that noise, apologies. My neighbour's cutting down a tree. I think that's all the questions asked via Twitter. So let's move on. 20 questions on the YouTube tab. Don't Worry said, do you think Martinelli would move up front in the long term, or would he be more effective on the left? I think, you know, why can't Martinelli become a standard where he can excel over all of them? You look at all the best players, you know, Messi's clearly better centrally, but he can bang and I'm not saying he's Messi, but he can bang anywhere. Neymar can bang anywhere. Okay, cool, Ronaldo's, you know, changed his game and adapted his game, but more or less he can bang anywhere. Top players can play everywhere. I believe Martinelli's future is up front, but there's no reason why he can't nail down being able to play on the left and the right effectively, like all top players. But I personally feel long term it's a striker thing, and it's an interesting one because he might become a striker, he might excel and become a, you know, 20 league goal minimum winger essentially. He could become like Alexis Sanchez or something. Do you get it? But similar to Alexis, I do think he could become, you know, Alexis in. Remember that year, what was it? He was false 9. I'm sure he scored a hat-trick or something against West Ham. That year he was really playing up front as a false 9. I think that's Martinelli long-term. Sorry, people, there's a fly, which is why my window should be closed. You're gonna die after this vid, so enjoy your last few minutes. So, but apologies. I think long-term Martinelli is a striker, my dude. So, thank you very much, man. You've also said, do you think Ainsley MaitlandNiles can tie down the right back spot if he fixes his mindset Love your work, bro. Keep it up. Thank you for your positive words, my dude. And yeah, it's down to how he wants it and how he's applying himself. If not, you got to keep it moving. There's a spot there to be had for him if he wanted it. Similar to Saka. Saka knows I want to play left wing and all these things, and the club wanted to. But right now, there's a chance to get games at left back. Let me go do that. That will improve my education and my appreciation for the defensive work. That will probably improve me as a defender unconsciously. Forget all of this deluded looking into the deeper meaning of things. Just at face value, you're playing Premier League games. I know he's probably Saka's about 18 now, but at the time there was a point he's 17 playing in the league. That's this. I wanted to be a footballer. There are many people that killed to be in his situation. Do you get? End of the day, he's playing Premier League football. Where would he be without that? Even Maitland-Niles. If Maitland-Niles didn't do the left back and the right back thing under Arsene Wenger, how many appearances would he have for Arsenal? Do you get it? And I don't know if he's never wanted to play right back, but I remember his language last time when Wenger was here around right back, he seemed more upbeat about it, sort of thing. Now it seems, again, if you've defined what you want to do as you get older, that's you. But yeah, man, I think he can nail that down if he wants it. Manu has said, Deluded, love for the piece on the podcast about sitting on the fences picking a side. Big fan of your non-football content. Love, my guy. What about my football content, my dude? He said, my question is, I'm a Belgian Gooner and I was really hyped to see Chuba Akpom come over to my hometown because I thought Arsenal were finally looking at our league for talent. But after that loan, the interest in the Belgian league died down from Arsenal. Do you think we should have one fixed club in these unknown leagues that play like Arsenal to send some youngsters to develop them? In general, we should look to have a feeder club, especially for clubs that we players we can't get work permits from. And there are gems in the Belgian league. Sorry, you look at Anderlecht, Jeremy Donku, Vesterschen, you're Belgium, so you know I've probably butchered their names, but there's talents there. Obviously, my geography could be poor, but Jonathan David of Gent, so we're clearly looking everywhere we can. So yeah, don't knock it, my guy, man. So I think, yeah, you definitely got, there's definitely something to be done in terms of getting a sort of feeder club sort of thing. There's definitely some truth in that, my dude, man. But I do think we're still looking at that league. And as for Akpom, I don't really think I could tell you why it didn't quite work out for him. But moving forward, Pablo has said, do you think that everything we praise Laka for is what Giroud provided? If you look at it, he has had 3 very average seasons. Yeah, I mean, statistically, but I think Lacazette's a better player than Giroud. I think he's less frustrating than Giroud. I don't think so. I don't think Giroud. I think Giroud's definitely a better technical footballer than people gave him credit for. But I just think Lacazette's better than him. But just looking at the statistics, again, it's hard to argue. I do agree with that. And I do think it's how you look at it, people, because again, people can see Lacazette is poor, but I remember getting, in the same way people used to get onto me for giving Emre a 5 out of 10, I questioned some of Lacazette's credentials, specifically 20 league goals minimum in the league. He's yet to show that yet. If he could do that, we imagine if it was a thing where Lacazette's doing what he was doing last year when he's Player of the Year, but he's getting 20 league goals or scoring similar amount of goals to Aubameyang. We could say, see Aubameyang, we've got 2 top strikers, in which we do have 2 top strikers, but we're really struggling with Lacazette, really. If flip that on its head and say Lacazette was the one in these contractual situations, as good as I believe Lacazette is, I don't think we would necessarily miss him. And I don't want to discredit him because there's been games he's shown what he's on, and he was our Player of the Year last year. But because of them 20 league goals, if push came to shove, it's got to be Aubameyang that stays and Lacazette that goes, in my opinion. Yeah, he's been calm, man. He's been calm. I do think there is truth in what you're saying, my guy. Shay said, love the content. Probably been asked this before, but why are you called the Deluded Gooner? I'm not called the Deluded Gooner. It's just DG or Deluded. Some you called it to me on Xbox a time ago when I was in school. Started this YouTube thing, didn't really know what to use it with, ran with that, and before I knew it, we're at this point, so it's too late to turn back, essentially, my dude. Antonio Banks has said, I have a serious question for you in relation to Arsenal. What if Arsenal want to stick to this sustainable model and not Kroenke? Maybe it was one of Arsenal's conditions to Kroenke before he took the 67% of the club. I don't really think that's the thing. Kroenke owns the club, my guy. With all due respect, Kroenke owns the club. It ties into probably what he wants to do and probably entices him a bit more in terms of a business model. But if he's the owner of the club, what can Arsenal tell him? And with all due respect, unless it's in legal binding writing that you have to adhere to certain things, once he takes control of the club, there's nothing that he could be told, my dude, really and truly. So yeah, yeah, man, it's all cronk. I don't really think that's a thing, my dude. But love for the question. Niz has said, DG, hope you're healthy and good, man. Thank you very much. You and your family, I hope, are the same. Ronaldinho or Zidane? Tough one. Both. But if you had to push me, put a gun to my head, I'm always going to pick Ronaldinho. Come on. But listen, and I mean, that's a tough one. Because Zidane, baller. Ronaldinho, baller. But Ronaldinho's just got the streets, man. Pardon me. Faris has said, do you think that at the academy of Arsenal they bring out similar players in the same position and style? Because there are a lot of midfielders I see Arsenal blessed with them, but not defenders. Of course, the way we like to play and the way we thingy is more suited to attacking players breaking through. It speaks volumes that the last centre half of significance to come through is Tony Adams, and I've said this before. That's one pet peeve of mine. Want to see more people come through. My name has said fried dumplings or festivals. Ooh, festival, my guy. Mr. Adlib has said, DG, good luck. Hope you win the Football Content Awards. Thank you very much. You said, who's the most underrated player in this current Arsenal team? Underrated. I don't really think there's an underrated player. I think there's many misunderstood players. I think Xhaka's a misunderstood player. I think Guendouzi's a misunderstood player. Ozil's been here for years, and apologies, it needs to be moved on, but I think he's misunderstood. Underrated. Maybe Pepe, because I think there's more to come from him. Torreira, I think, because people are forgetting what he's on. Underrated, that's a good one. I don't really think that. I think there's misunderstood player. I don't really think there's an underrated player in the Arsenal team. I'd have to sit down about that. That's a good one. Yeah, man, I think misunderstood. I don't think there's any underrated players per se. But yeah, once I sit down and think about that, I might change. That's probably the best question I've seen, my guy. Very good question, man. Good question, and I ain't really got an answer for you, my dude. I think there's more misunderstood players than underrated, really. I just think there's a lot of average guys here, really and truly. Like, actual players, I think, are quality, and the word quality is subjective, whether they're young players with potential, whether they're quality. Actually, quality players for me, like players that actually rate in the Arsenal team. And just because I don't say you doesn't mean I don't think you're a baller, but actually rate, like, I think, if I was Arsenal manager, under no circumstances will you be sold unless 200 million or mad fees like that is coming. Martinelli and Saka are givens. Torreira for me, Aubameyang as well. Give Saliba a bye because I like Saliba, but he's not really relevant because he's not been exposed to Arsenal yet. Couple players I would like to keep a part of the team, like I think Xhaka's decent, I think Guendouzi's decent, I like Tierney. I think Bellerin and Maitland-Niles, they could fight out at right back. I still think there's more to come from Pepe, a couple other men like that. But yeah, man, I'd say that really. That's a good question, and I ain't got an answer for you if I'm honest. You've also said if you could interview, sorry, my guy, you've wrote this sentence a bit calam. If you could interview an Arsenal player, past or present or manager, who would it be and what would you ask? Couple people. First and foremost, Arsene Wenger. Just dig into Arsene Wenger's life, dig into him about psychological looking at things, dig into him about, I don't know if you see my deluded thought segments, but do a sort of thing around that, like as well as Football More Life. Thierry Henry, the same thing. Ian Wright, Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp, Tony Adams, George Graham, Ivan Gazidis, and I say this completely unrelated from them. I'd be on the Piers Morgan thing, or question time. When they set them up, they're just there. You're applying mad pressure, asking them questions. I'd be on that with Ivan Gazidis, so don't group him in with all of that. But good question. I'd say them, to be fair with you. Liam Brady, if I could, because he went off to do the youth thing for a number of years, and he's probably got a lot to say. Where else are we, man? These are some good questions. Good questions making me think a lot, man. 1-1. I knew I'd see a question from my man somewhere. You said, where do you predict we'll finish when the league is resumed and completed? Out of the top 4, man. I wanted to get top 4. I just can't see it. I'm not going to put a number on it. Maybe we stay where we've been right now. Wolves have been better than us of recent. Leicester have definitely been better than us this season. City and Liverpool the same. Chelsea might creep up. United were picking up form. I can't see us getting top 4. I hope to God to be wrong, but I'm never going to lie to you lot if I don't believe it. I want to be wrong, but I'm never going to sit here and say something I don't believe. So I'm not too sure. I just think out of the top 4. You've asked me Saka or Martinelli, which one do you think is better now? Tough one. And you've said which one do you think will go on to achieve more from what you can see at this stage. It's even, man. I'm more inclined to believe, just because Martinelli seems like a chosen man, no disrespect to Saka, that Martinelli's going to go off and be a real world-class player. So I'd maybe say him. Best player right now, I think it's even. They've got their best. They've both got their strengths and skills. You know, Saka's chipped in with some assists. Martinelli's chipped in with some goals and assists. I do think, to a degree, Saka's decision making, it might be better than Martinelli's right now, purely because I think Martinelli's in the Saka is as well, but the honeymoon stage, where people forget things. There's a couple of times his movement's elite, but there's a couple of times he picks up the ball in places he really shouldn't pick up the ball. Sometimes I think his enthusiasm can go against him, and these are all things he'd have to learn. Same goes for Saka. I think Saka defensively has not really been tested like that. So I don't know for who's going to achieve more. I think Martinelli's going to go off to be a Real Madrid or Barcelona player one day, so make of that what you want. Which one is better right now? They're both the same. They've got their strengths and weaknesses. You've also said, when George Graham took over, we hadn't won the league in 20 odd years or come close. He brought through young players from the youth team and signed young energetic players from elsewhere. We won the league. Should we be looking to head in a similar direction now? Well, we are. We're relying on youth players to help with the rebuild. We're trying to bring in experienced players where we can. Of course, we should be trying to win the league, but right now it's top 4. So I think that's a given, my guy, really and truly. Jack Polton, and tough question. You said, for your channel and yourself, where do you want to set yourself for 2021? As you ask footballers their targets, I would like to know yours. Thank you for being such a good guy. Thank you very much for your praise, man. And that's put me on the spot, and that's something I really should be able to answer. I've got a couple goals that I don't disclose, because I just think when you put them into the universe for everyone, negative spirits. But ones I can disclose, better word, disperse is something completely different. 30,000 subscribers. Want to try, and it might not happen, but would love to do YouTube full time, man, in a way where I can go and pursue other things, get some more qualifications in sport, and just be better than I am now in terms of spiritually, mentally, psychologically. The books I've read, all of these sort of things, I'd say that 12 books for the year. So by 2021, 12 books. I'm on 3 for this year, so there's a bit of ground to make up, and we're in June now, so I need to get a crack on with that. So I'd say that, man. Good question, very good question. Employment as well. Get employment, get better employment, get better salary as well, if that's not the case. Yeah, Philip has said, hi DG, hope you and your family are well and safe. Same goes for you. What other football channels do you enjoy watching the most? I don't really watch football channels, to be fair with you. I like to go on the coach's voice. I just mainly go on websites. I don't really go on match channels. Like, it's really bad, because I should be consuming content, but you know, if it's not Sky Sports, the Athletic people I look to watch, I don't really watch anyone, and that's not a bitter thing. I've just never watched anybody. I just don't find it engaging. Even me, like, I find it really hard to stay engaged and listen to other people, really and truly. Not that I'm ignorant or anything. It's just I just don't care. Like, I just don't care. Like, I just don't want to watch it. Like, I watch a lot of unrelated football content. Like, one guy that runs Hackney Wick FC, that I know some boys, that's like, it's a small world. I know some people that coach there. Bobby Kasanga, check out his YouTube channel, man. He talks about prison, changing your life around. Very interesting guy, man. I'd say stuff like that, really. Gary Vaynerchuk, mainly on these sort of things, people, really. Don't really watch a lot of football content, really and truly. Really poor of me, but yeah. Arsenal's YouTube channel, if anything. Apologies for yawning, people. Faris has said, what do you think of Benzema, and is he a striker capable of playing for Real Madrid? I think he's a quality striker, and if you don't last at Real Madrid for that many years unless you've got quality. So I think that question answers itself, with all due respect, my guy. You also said, do you think that teams will give academy players their debut, like Arsenal with Matt Smith and Trey Coyle, because they're training with the first team? Well, there's people always train with the first team. I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see Matt Smith and Trey Coyle and Balogun and the rest of them make their debuts. It could be a thing. Long term, it could be a thing, because obviously if there's no money on the table and stuff, you might have to do what German and French clubs are doing. Actually look to actively push through your academy. Toulouse at a point, forgive me if I'm wrong, but at a point this season, I'm sure I was watching them and I saw two teenagers partnering at centre-half in a league game. How often do you see that in the Premier League? And if so, someone name me an example, because there might be, but I can't tell you when there's one. So I think a byproduct of, obviously, you can't necessarily, money, football's always been inflated, but money and quality have never been too far apart in my opinion. And obviously with what's going on with the global pandemic, youth players could be, youth players or pushing through youth players could be a thing to make up numbers. So yeah, that is something to consider. Big Celtic said, do you think we will see Trey Coyle play in the first team next season? Hopefully, man, hopefully. I want all these young players to play. You said, have you seen Copper 90's Garuda Select Series? No, I haven't, man. I haven't seen it at all. Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I can't answer that second question. Apologies, my dude. Faris again has said, hearing that there will be 5 subs per game per team when the Prem is back, should there be an increase in the number of subs then to accommodate that, so that teams can have more options on the bench? You'd imagine logically that's the next step if it hasn't been already, my guy. Olmer has said, off topic, what do you think is the main stumbling block with regards to fighting racism? Is it pure ignorance or lack of education? It baffles me that we have to talk about this in 2020. Systemic. Because I think the problem people make is there's 2 types of racists. There's 2 types of racism. There's that ignorant, you're an effing this, you're an effing that, you're this, you're that, and the other. And that is ignorant, that is retarded, that is stupid. And then there's the more sinister one. There's, you know, it all starts with bringing out, you know, like you saw in slavery times, that government official doctors were coming out and saying black people don't feel pain, black people got pain threshold and things like that. People are looking at a doctor as someone with education. They're doing that. You look at a lot of Eurogenics and intelligent literature writers all over the centuries. Cecil Rhodes, etc. They have done evil and sinister things. They have said the Negro is to be treated like a child and denied higher enterprise. So there's been the evil like this, oppression. Don't get me wrong, you need a law of the land. And if you're a criminal selling drugs and all of these things, not that it's just black people who do that, but this is something I hear, you have to be prepared to go to prison and the police to be up your arse. That is something said. But then again, the police, they have tensions with this community. They demonize people. The police, especially in England and everywhere, they're here to police. They're here to police black people. They're here to protect white people. That's exactly what I have to say. And it starts and there's also the educational system ingrained in racism. Like in this country, completely vanished that Britain was ever part of the slavery trade. A youth might have dreadlocks, you're telling him his hair, you're already kicking him out and calling him aggressive and all this fuckery and all, and playing with different, you know, black people have to play different rules, people. I'm going to be honest with you. We are taught that, even in, and I didn't understand it when my parents used to say it to me, it's like, even when you're right in situations, you're going to have to deal with it a certain way, and it only clocked years later. I'll give you an example. My white friend Lee, I don't chat to him no more, not because of anything, he's just gone our separate ways. I still see him, but he's calm. Obviously, we got in trouble in school now. I'm not going to disclose it, but we're both in trouble. All right, cool. Not the head teacher, but one of the sort of people like that, Miss Hurst. And if you're watching this, fuck you, bitch. Because she was just, she used to hate me, man. Like, really, like, I had to get people mum to come shout at her and stuff and carry on, because she used to say some very nasty stuff and racist things. But back to this story now. We're both getting in trouble. Alright, cool, fine. We're both getting in trouble. We're in internal. I swear to you, this Lee brother, he's flipping tables, carrying on. He's like, Lee, calm down, calm down. I'm just standing there. Lee gets to go back to class and that. My mum's all having to come in. I'm getting excluded. Playing with 2 different rules. You get? We're playing with 2 different rules. We're always called... The minute... If somebody annoys me and I reply, I'm called aggressive. Do you get? So there's these things. So already playing at that. You're already showing these black brothers in school roots. So you're telling them they're worthless. You're telling a lot of black people our strength is our hair. Not that it makes us strong, but it's a symbolic thing. You're telling young black girls to hate themselves. You're telling man them to hate themselves and internalize that and make them feel like crap. Again, accountability, and it's down to people to pull themselves through it. But if you're telling man they're worthless, treating man like they're worthless, kicking them out, how can you do anything different? So that these things are systemic, people. They're structured problems. They are put in place for a reason. Listen, these things are working the way they were designed to work. So we're fighting years of this, people. We're fighting years of this, my guy. So I don't think it is pure ignorance, because this is why I don't talk with people about racism and try to break things down, because most people don't want to listen. They want to be obtuse. They don't want to listen. They know what's going on. They just don't want to listen, my guy. So I don't know. There's not one particular thing, but I guess you'd say ignorance, man. Like choosing to just turn a blind eye and act obtuse. Obtuseness would probably be it. Finally, Wayne has said, hope your days have been blessed so far. Thank you, my guy. Hopefully the same can be said for you. You said, is Arteta a better analyst than given credit for, given his vital contribution in development of Sterling and Sane, as well as the changes he's made to our side already? Well, I guess so. You could say that. I think he's getting just praise for doing that, but you could say so. I think he's getting the right amount of praise, because there's nothing else to praise him on, really. It's just you can only praise him so far in his hand-to-hand coaching, because with all due respect to my guy, he's just started his coaching thing, so you can't point towards no Champions Leagues and things like that. Definitely is a better analyst than people give him credit for. Maybe that, because obviously that one-to-one help. Obviously, he cannot give 26 men the same one-to-one help. He's one man, but it thought provokes. He might be able to say to this coach, alright, cool, I'm going to take Xhaka and work on the team with Xhaka and Torreira, but for the next month, you're going to work with Saka and Martinelli. You're going to work with this and that. You're going to work with this, and then we'll present our findings and be in consistent dialogue. So I'd say that, people. I'd say that, man. That was a great question, and that was a great way to finish this, really. That was a lovely Q&A. Shorter one than usual, I believe, but a lovely one, man. And yeah, man, obviously make sure you're paying attention to the YouTube community tab when I ask you for your Q&A questions and issue a deadline. Everybody stuck within deadline this week, which is amazing. Thank you for your questions. Make sure you vote for me to win the Football Content Awards. A win for me is a win for us, people. Make sure you comment your questions for next week. Make sure you obviously like and subscribe. Obviously, more importantly than that, make sure you stay safe. On that topic, though, I've just said something I actually haven't checked out. Is there any questions last week? I want everybody. Shut up, man. Madupe said, can you make a video on Amari Hutchinson? We'll see. Faris has said, Mangala Sarr, Axel Disasi, and why? Their levels, man. I would go for both. They've both got strengths in their own. Mangala Sarr hasn't had the best of times playing at left back under Vieira, but he can play there. Disasi's decent. I think Mangala Sarr potentially thinks, at this moment in time, from what I'm answering, thinks a tiny bit more like a defender. So I'd say it's levels. I'd say it's levels. And I think that is the last question, really, for real now, so I can keep it moving. On that note, you lot know me. It's always lovely speaking with you lot, but all good things have to come to an end. So make sure you vote for me. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Make sure you check out my other content. Make sure you comment your questions for next week. More importantly than that, make sure you guys stay safe. Till we meet again, DG.